Daily Words of God. The work that Jehovah did upon the Israelites established among humanity God's earthly place of origin, which was also the sacred place where he was present. He confined his work to the people of Israel. At first, he did not work outside of Israel, but instead, he chose people he found suitable in order to restrict the scope of his work. Israel is the place where God created Adam and Eve, and out of the dust of that place, Jehovah made man. This place became the base of his work on earth. The Israelites, who were the descendants of Noah and also the descendants of Adam, were the human foundation of Jehovah's work on earth. At this time, the significance, purpose, and steps of Jehovah's work in Israel were to initiate his work on the whole earth, which, taking Israel as its center, gradually spread into the Gentile nations. This is the principle according to which he works throughout the universe, to establish a model and then broaden it until all people in the universe shall have received his gospel. The first Israelites were the descendants of Noah. These people were endowed only with the breath of Jehovah and understood enough to take care of the basic necessities of life. But they did not know what kind of God Jehovah was, or his will for man, much less how they should revere the Lord of all creation. As for whether there were rules and laws to be obeyed, or whether there was a duty that created beings should perform for the Creator, Adam's descendants knew nothing of these things. All they knew was that the husband should sweat and labor to provide for his family, and that the wife should submit to her husband and perpetuate the race of humans that Jehovah had created. In other words, such people who had only Jehovah's breath and his life knew nothing of how to follow God's laws or how to satisfy the Lord of all creation. They understood far too little. So even though there was nothing crooked or deceitful in their hearts, and jealousy and contention seldom arose among them, nevertheless they had no knowledge or understanding of Jehovah, the Lord of all creation. These ancestors of man knew only to eat the things of Jehovah, and to enjoy the things of Jehovah, but they did not know to revere Jehovah. They did not know that Jehovah was the one they should worship on bended knees. So how could they be called his creatures? If this were so, would not the words, "Jehovah is the Lord of all creation," and "He created man in order that man might manifest him, glorify him, and represent him," have been spoken in vain? How could people who had no reverence for Jehovah become a testimony to his glory? How could they become manifestations of his glory? Would not Jehovah's words, "I created man in my image," then become a weapon in the hands of Satan, the evil one? Would these words not then become a mark of humiliation to Jehovah's creation of man? In order to complete that stage of work, Jehovah, after creating mankind, did not instruct or guide them from Adam to Noah. Rather, it was not until after the flood destroyed the world that he formally began to guide the Israelites, who were the descendants of Noah and also of Adam. His work and utterances in Israel gave guidance to all the people of Israel as they lived their lives throughout the land of Israel, thereby showing humanity that Jehovah was not only able to blow breath into man, so that he might have life from him and rise up from the dust into a created human being, but that he could also incinerate mankind and curse mankind and use his rod to govern mankind. So too did they see that Jehovah could guide man's life on earth and speak and work among humanity according to the hours of the day and of the night. The work he did was only so that his creatures might know that man came from dust picked up by him, and moreover, that man had been made by him. Not only this, but he first did his work in Israel so that other peoples and nations, who in fact were not separate from Israel, but rather had branched off from the Israelites, yet were still descended from Adam and Eve, might receive the gospel of Jehovah from Israel, so that all created beings in the universe might be able to revere Jehovah and hold him to be great. Had Jehovah not begun his work in Israel, but instead, having created mankind, let them live carefree lives on the earth, then in that case, owing to man's physical nature means that man can never know the things he cannot see, which is to say that he would not know that it was Jehovah who created mankind, and even less why he did so. He would never know that it was Jehovah who created mankind, or that he is the Lord of all creation. If Jehovah had created man and placed him on the earth, and simply dusted off his hands and left, rather than remaining among mankind to give them guidance for a period of time, then all humanity would have returned to nothingness. Even heaven and earth, and all the myriad things of his making, and all of humanity would have returned to nothingness, and moreover would have been trampled upon by Satan. In this way, Jehovah's wish that on the earth, that is, in the midst of his creation, he should have a place to stand, a holy place, would have been shattered. And so, after creating mankind, that he was able to remain in their midst to guide them in their lives, and speak to them from within their midst. All of this was in order to realize his desire and to achieve his plan. The work he did in Israel was meant only to execute the plan he had made before his creation of all things, and therefore his working first among the Israelites and his creation of all things were not at odds with each other, but were done both for the sake of his management, his work, and his glory, and were done in order to deepen the meaning of his creation of mankind. He guided the life of mankind on earth for 2,000 years after Noah, during which he taught humanity to understand how to revere Jehovah, the Lord of all creation, how to conduct their lives, and how to go on living, and most of all, how to act as a witness for Jehovah, render him obedience, and give him reverence, even praising him with music, as did David and his priests.